forward revisions to USPAP and USPAP advisory opinions per the publication of the 2016-17 edition of USPAP. E-Senis of 1 discussion and 3 exposure drafts were asked to obtain feedback on possible modifications for the 2018-19 edition. On February 3, 2017, the Appraisal Standards Board, ASB, adopted modifications for the 2018-19 edition of the Uniform Standards of Professional Arousal Practice, USPAP. These modifications include 1. Revising the definition of report and edits to the Ethics Rule and the Record-Keeping Rule. The Board adopted proposed revisions in the 3rd exposure draft to clarity the definition of report, as well as edits to the Ethics Rule and the Record-Keeping Rule applicable to the communication of assignment results. As put forth in the 3rd exposure draft, the Board did not adopt revisions related to communications of assignments results prior to the completion of the assignment other than the ethical and record-keeping requirements that appear in that section. Although there was support for specifically addressing draft reports, the Board also learned that there were significant unintended consequences that might occur with the adoption of any such requirements. 2. Creating a definition of assignment conditions. Revising the definitions of assignment, intended use and intended user, and related edits to the competency rule. The Board created a definition of assignment conditions, a term that had only been previously referenced in the scope of work rule. The Board also adopted revisions intended to clarify the definitions of assignment, intended use, and intended user, as well as making related edits to the competency rule to clarify an appraiser's obligations prior to agreeing to perform an assignment. Although the Board did not revise the language at the time of the assignment, the Board did receive comments expressing concern with its meaning. Therefore, in the near future the Board intends to issue guidance to assist in clarifying the intent of that terminology. 3. Removing the definition of assumption and revising the definition of extraordinary assumption. The Board deleted the definition of assumption, as its use is not intended to differ from the generally accepted meaning of the word. The Board also adopted a revised definition of extraordinary assumption, with administrative edits, in an effort to clarify that term and its applicability. 4. Revising the definition of appraisal review, and dividing Standard 3, appraisal review, into Standard 3, appraisal review, development, and Standard 4, appraisal review, reporting. The Board adopted changes proposed in the 3rd exposure draft to edit the definition of appraisal review to include its use as adjective. The Board also adopted the proposed revisions to divide Standard 3, appraisal review, into Standard 3, appraisal review, development, and Standard 4, appraisal review, reporting. The edits are intended to improve consistency with the other development and reporting standards. 5. Dividing Standard 6, Mass Appraisal, into Standard 5, Mass Appraisal, Development, and Standard 6. Mass Appraisal, Reporting. The Board adopted the changes proposed in the 3rd exposure draft to divide Standard 6, Mass Appraisal, into Standard 5, Mass Appraisal, Development, and Standard 6. Mass Appraisal, Reporting. The edits are intended to create greater consistency among the other development and reporting standards. For example, the term describe, used in the reporting requirement of a mass appraisal, was changed to summarized to be more consistent with the requirements of an appraisal report. 6. Removing the term market value from Standards 7 and 8, the Board adopted revisions to Standards Rules 7 to 2, C, 7 to 5, 8 to 2, AXV, 8 to 2, V, and 8 to 2, B, VILI, as proposed in the 3rd exposure draft. The Board adopted removal of the term market value from the Personal Property Development and Reporting Standards. In order to clarify that certain requirements are not limited to market value assignments but are required whenever necessary for credible assignment results. 7. Revision to the Personal Property Certification Requirements in Standards Rule 8-3. The Board adopted revisions to the Personal Property Certification in Standards Rule 8-3 as proposed in the third exposure draft, to allow personal property appraisers, in assignments involving different types of specialties, to sign the certification without making them accountable for the assignment results of items which they did not appraise. USPAP 2018-2019 Edition O. The Appraisal Foundation.